Hello, everyone. Welcome to your favorite podcast, Research Mavericks. We are here with our number four Research Maverick, Sam Pisani from Logit Group, our client for more than a decade, our partner for many, many years, and many more things. So I'll let Sam introduce himself. Sam, first of all, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time. Maybe
Thanks for having me, Sumit. Appreciate it.
it is our absolute pleasure, Sam. So we wanted to introduce you to the world of research who already know you very well. But maybe if you can just tell our audience how you got into the data collection or research space, about your background, how you started Logit, and what's your trajectory been. I'm sure people will be very interested in knowing about that.
Excellent. Absolutely. Personally, my entrance into the field of research and into data collection is, I guess, a little unusual. And when I've told this story before, people seem to get a chuckle out of it. Logit Group has now entered its 25th year. We'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary this fall. I am founder, managing partner. I started Logit actually when I was still in grad school as a student. This is very much a starting a business from your basement type of scenario. So I was living in my parents' basement, going to grad school, and I was actually doing my master's degree in uh, political science and voter behavior. So my background was in polling, and I was working for a couple of political parties, provincially, federally, as a private consultant and organizer at the time. And part of one of my jobs was to source and analyze research. As I was fielding work and getting suppliers to field my work back then, it was of course exclusively caddy telephone research. I would tell my professor at school that I wasn't pleased with the quality of research and polling that I was getting from my suppliers at the time. And so he made an offhanded joke one day, said, well, if you can't find anyone to do it for you, why don't you do it yourself? And so I kind of went home that evening, and then I sat down, and I come from an entrepreneurial family. So took out a piece of paper and I said, so how difficult would this be? And I literally just started writing down on a piece of paper. So I would need phones. I would need to rent some space. I'd need offices and incorporate a company, open a bank account. I went back a couple of days later and I said, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to open up 8 to 12 seats, and I'm going to attempt to do this research myself, thinking full well that I was in grad school, and if this didn't go well over 6 months or after the end of my education, I'd go back to what I was planning to do, which was at that point go into completing my PhD, and then started up, got our first contract, which was a small political campaign in Toronto during the '97 municipal election, and from that stemmed a contract with the provincial Ministry of Education, as there was a teacher strike. And at that point, I was introduced to Anthony Molinaro, who's one of the partners and another founding partner, who was working at another research firm at the time. We came together, and 25 years later, we're still doing what we're doing. I guess the 6 month lease that I had signed for the call center expired long ago, and we kept expanding and growing. And from there, what we ended up doing is we took a holistic approach to executing research for our clients. The basis for Logit and why I started it in that capacity was really to cover what I thought were shortcomings on service level and quality and methodology that I was getting from some of the suppliers I was working at then. So Logit started as a definite response to what I was experiencing as a new researcher in the industry.
What an entrepreneurial story, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Maybe tell our audience what kind of work Logit is involved in these days, and give us some example of the projects you guys are doing.
Sure, and I mean, I guess we're a far cry from what we were back in our infancy. So right now we have, in terms of our size, I'll kind of start with my size and let you know what we cover. We have over 100 full-time staff globally, over 500 other part-time staff across our call centers. We have offices. Our headquarters are in Toronto. We have offices in London, Ontario, and virtual centers, call centers in Montreal and Wichita, Kansas as well. We have physical offices in Virginia Beach and in Michigan, in India. We have a small team of developers in Kenya and a small team of client service folks in San Jose, Costa Rica, as well as senior client-facing VPs and project staff spread out through the United States as well. So we've kind of come a far way since those infancy days. And when we started, we were predominantly 95% plus in political and public affairs. And now public affairs, while still very close to me personally and kind of from my field, it makes up less than 5% of what we do. So we're a very organic, pragmatic, methodologically agnostic form of data collection or field execution partner. And when I say that, I mean we the type of work we do is matching methodology and process to the client's needs rather than selling our product as a byproduct to whenever clients come to us. So we have specialists in the field of telephone research. We do a lot of research on phone. We'll be pushing over 500,000 telephone hours this year alone. Again, breaking another record for us. So while people say that telephone is dead, it's, as Voxco would know, telephone is far from dead. And we'll get into reasons why that is in our conversation, I'm sure. We do a lot of more advanced online work, sample-only work. We do a lot of qualitative work. So we're very agnostic in the space of being a field partner. A lot of our clients, I'd say 90% plus of our clients, are existing research firms, agencies, consultancies that are coming to us for that consultative help with how to execute a project, how to get that best possible data that's timely, that's cost effective, that's obviously that focuses on quality, and providing that bricks and mortar approach that where our partners can focus on the consultative side and the value add side for their clients, and we're focused on how to actually execute that research. So we've morphed. I mean, I know the term data collection traditionally encompasses what we do. We've morphed that into field execution services because I find, especially now in the age of speed and technology, that execution and being that much closer to your clients and being that much more collaborative and doing more is the norm right now than it used to be when clients would hand you a survey instrument, give you specs, you would field it and then hand it back, which was very linear. Now it's very, very consultative. It's very, very integrated. We have teams that are dedicated to some of our clients exclusively, given the type of work we do and the familiarity that we have with their research. So it's much more gray in terms of what the consultants do and what the field execution firms do.
Awesome. Sam, maybe let's double click on the telephone surveys or CATI as you were talking about. So you're saying it is still the gold standard. You of course hit a record. So there's a lot of work going on. It is increasing in your opinion. I know you've been growing organically and inorganically as well. So maybe tell our audience a little bit about what are the kind of projects best done via CADI and telephone surveys.
And you know what? This is a very interesting subject matter in our industry because, as you know, Sumit, when we meet at conferences and we kind of walk the floor and we go into sessions, there really isn't a lot of conversation about what I guess air quotes non-technological methodologies or legacy methodologies like telephone. But I'd preface that all by saying that technology and advancement isn't excluding telephone. And in fact, and I love being on your podcast because Voxco, as a caddy partner of ours for over 20 years, as a supplier of our caddy platform, has evolved the way caddy is executed, and we've added technology as well. Technology also plays a big role in caddy. The way we field telephone surveys right now is very, very different than how it was 5 years and 10 years ago. So there are ways, and I speak of this all the time. There are ways to infuse technology, and with that I mean efficiency, attempting to get better response rates and cooperation rates, compliance with ongoing technological and telco regulations and privacy regulations. There is technology still very much infused in caddy, and when it comes to political work or public affairs work or government work, it really still is the gold standard, especially when it is so difficult online to get good probability sample. When we do consumer work or clients have B2B requests online, we obviously go the route of convenience, and that is profiled, double opted panelists. But of course, fundamentally, those are a non-probability sample. And so when it comes to media reporting of political polls, government research that's being done, oftentimes the requirement is probability sampling. And that would largely, apart from a couple of exceptions, will come from telephone research, properly sampled research. It's actually just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, our firm, Logit, was recognized by Langer Research in the United States, one of the gold standard methodologists that partners with Pew, as being a caddy center of excellence with the way we execute work for them. So there are a lot of ways to infuse technology into telephone that doesn't make it legacy, that makes it just as relevant today as it would have been 10 years ago.
100% agree with you, Sam. Congratulations on that award, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks very much. It was unexpected. It was a very nice to receive award, and we had no forewarning that it was coming, but it does go to show, and the difference that proper methodology can make to research, and that's not just caddy. So I should preface it by saying, in our industry, we're getting bombarded now with technology, and some of it's great, and some of it is not fully evolved yet. But we as researchers, and I say that both from myself as a practitioner of research and Voxco as a services technology firm that's exclusively focused on the research industry, we're getting a lot of external non-research technology firms coming into our space. And there are a lot of things that we can leverage for good, and there are a lot of things that are not quite fully baked out. So those types of acknowledgments also just have a focus to say, hey, there is still an element of good research that has to underpin everything that we do. And by good research, that's proper methodology, it's proper process, that's training, that's everything down the line to ensure that what gets delivered is the best quality possible. And that is whether it's telephone, whether it's online, whether it's qualitative, there's still an underpinning of sound methodology that needs to go into what we do. And I hope as an industry, and I know that we're going to be talking about this, I hope that underpinning doesn't get shaken by simply the brute force of the introduction of innovation.
100% agree with you, Sam. So you touched upon this, but maybe let's dive deeper into it. What modes do you use to collect data today?
So apart from telephone, and even now, I'd like to splinter that off again because of our partnership with Voxco. Splinter that off. Telephone used to be telephone, and of course now we know that telephone is much more complex than that. There's TCPA compliant mobile research via telephone that needs to get done in the United States. There's traditional landline dialing that needs to get done that's compliant. There's SMS invitations that go out to be able to bridge mixed modes. So when we talk about, for us, telephone, we now encompass and utilize our partnership with Voxco for that cross gamut of services. So we'll do landline dialing at the same time as we'll do TCPA compliant mobile dialing at the same time as also inviting a probability-based sampling of mobile phones into an SMS environment to complete online, but starting through a telephone sampling. So there's that kind of umbrella of telephone. Then there's all of the online work we do, and again, we're agnostic in how we approach things. So we do what we would call full service online work. We have a lot of clients that provide us with their questionnaires, and we do everything from program hosting, discrete choice design. So we help them with more advanced analytics. We'll also do more advanced online exercises like concept optimization exercises, things of that nature, video analyzer tools. And then we've got a whole host of in-person, face-to-face, and qualitative, be it online or in person, that obviously took a hit through COVID, but now is finally starting to come back. So we have a roster of in-person interviewers across North America that will do work at quick service restaurants, or in malls or in airports, things of that nature. So we really cover, and we've gone out of our way to be agnostic. That's when clients or potentially new clients ask me, give me your elevator pitch of the type of research that you do. I really focus on the fact that we are methodologically agnostic and that we've got practitioners in all of those silos internally that will help. So if a client has a medical request, we're going to do qualitative interviews with gastroenterologists. Then I have a VP that handles medical research for us, and they'll work with their subject knowledge and their advice to work on that. If it's more straight ahead telephone public affairs, we have our public affairs team that handles that. So we try to match what we do with our clients' requirements.
Fantastic. So, is it fair to say you are a true multimodal data collection company, or mixed mode, as they say in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would encompass everything we do. I would even put an asterisk next to that. I would say that plus, because as you're aware, over the past couple of years, Logit has also undergone an innovation transformation, and I touched upon it earlier. We've gone ahead and also started our innovation firm and our res tech firm, Zamplia, strictly from a lens of research practitioners building technology and innovation that is built by and built for researchers. So with that, apart from all the multimodal actual execution of research, there's our Zamplia platform, which is growing exponentially. That is our insights platform that brings together countless panel sources. I'd call it a marketplace plus, because in addition to all of that, sourcing sample programmatically, seamlessly, at better rates and instantaneously, allowing our clients and users to run feasibility, drill down into profiling, pull their sample, select their vendors, introduce all sorts of quality checks, all within the umbrella of our ResTech arm, Zamplia. We're also introducing a series of AI tools that are going to be focused on the research side for research specifically under our Question IQ umbrella, which will be AI coding, AI sentiment analysis, AI quality control, and quality tools for establishing better metrics as far as who's completing our surveys. So apart from the multi-mode, we now have this other silo that is a full research technology firm that's building by and for researchers.
Absolutely. And we can all agree that without a good sample, your research is going to be pretty crappy, right? This is
So
fair.
there's the quality side. I really appreciate that you touched on that, because it's one of the things that I think researchers do a good service in speaking of quality and what our issues are around quality. But I still think there's a lot of work to be done in that. So I think let's look at it from two perspectives. There's quality, and then there's making the process more seamless and easier for researchers, which will in part also better quality. So let's look at the convenience side and building technology for researchers. Voxco Audience was recently rolled out last year, and congratulations on that partnership with Zamplia to build an ecosystem that allows Voxco online users to seamlessly pull sample and field surveys without actually leaving the Voxco environment. To me, that provides one less hurdle in the process of completing research that allows your users not just convenience, not just cost effectiveness, but allows those researchers to also spend more time on the quality side rather than dealing with the mundane operational execution of it. So that helps on the quality side, and players in the market like Research Defender, who is a partner of ours, like our Question IQ tools that are also used to augment that. Quality is an ongoing concern. We know as researchers that the appetite and the need for online panelists and online opinions is greater now than it's ever been. And we're under strain to be able to build the inventory and the amount of people globally that are there to give us their dedicated, their nuanced responses in a meaningful, quality-driven way. And that's everything from how we incentivize them to how we recruit them. It's an ongoing challenge, but I think it's something that we need to keep on top of, because how we drive research and the opinions that make up the data that we compile is going to have a enormous impact on what the data says, the story that we're telling, and for our end clients, is going to impact their ROI. So quality is a pervasive conversation for us throughout everything that we do. And it's not even just the fielding side. It's quality through questionnaire design. It's quality through the field work. It's quality through code list development and more qualitative analysis. It's quality through the entire lens of what we're doing is going to drive better research, especially in an economic environment that is more challenging now than it was, pre-COVID, with higher interest rates and stresses on marketing budgets, and end clients saying like, hey, where can we shave? Where can we trim? Where can we delay costs? We want to make sure that as a research industry, we are ensuring that our end users know that there's value in what we do.
Sam, actually, let's double click on that. This is flavor of the month, right? Or the year, rather. So, with the inflation finally going down, that is a relief. But to your point, marketing budgets are still pretty tight, right? The vendors are looking at their spends very, very carefully. Everybody is back to the profitability game, including the Amazons of the world, right? And for better and for good, right? So tell me, how is that impacting the kind of work you guys are doing, or the kind of work industry is doing in general? Is this impacting the research space? Or do you think there's more opportunity for the researchers in this challenging environment?
I think I would say, just speaking to a lot of our peers and a lot of other researchers over the past 6 months during this year's conference season, I think largely, generally, I think there's been a bit of strain on our industry, some softness, which I think is obviously not exclusive to the market research industry. I mean, we've seen, even just here in Canada alone, we saw one of our largest telecommunications firms laid off several thousand people just last week. So I think while there's going to be pressure, I think as long as interest rates remain high, I think that's one thing that affects all businesses. But we should probably touch on is that as long as servicing that debt, that financing for all organizations, as long as that cost is significantly higher now than it was just a couple of years ago, I think there's going to be added pressures across the board for how we're able to grow. I mean, we saw, there's some research firms that have been growing aggressively over the past few years, and it's Logit was one of them. We made an acquisition last year. We made an acquisition 5 years ago. We've been growing both organically and through acquisition over the past half decade or so. But obviously today's environment and what financing costs are is largely different than what they were just a few years ago. So I think as long as the environment is there where money isn't necessarily free, there are costs to servicing debt. I think across the board we'll see some of our larger clients needing to refocus where their funds go and how their spend goes. I think it's interesting, and I'd like to get your thought on this, Sumit, as an entrepreneur as well and as a business leader. I think COVID would have shown some organizations that it's probably not the best to completely pause on research, as we experienced a lot of clients coming to us in the middle of the COVID shutdowns and standstills, going back into research saying, wow, our data looks so much different. What's changed? And of course, it's difficult to say what's changed when they had paused research for an extended period of time. So I think there's something definite to be said about maintaining your cadence of research, that we know what's going on out there. But how do you see it?
Yeah, so similar to you, I actually saw strength during COVID, and
Yes,
research
agreed. Yeah.
projects that are critical to the economy, they were continuing, and many more healthcare projects and many more healthcare surveys were started as a result. So we were the beneficiaries of that, and
Yep.
including you guys
Yep.
also, Sam, right?
Yes. Yeah. The
We
amount of
were,
consumer COVID work, the consumer public opinion COVID work we did was extensive.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I will do a shout out to Voxco. Is when COVID did happen and call centers across North America were being forced to shut down, because of the way we had integrated Voxco throughout our caddy processes, through our London office, through our virtual centers, through the fact that it was so easy for us to build our work from home environment. that we were actually picking up work from partner firms or competitors that were not able to pivot directly to work from home. And so we were actually picking up more caddy work because of our flexibility to have our agents work from home seamlessly and with the same quality features. So I do want to mention that as we've touched on COVID, there were a lot of beneficiaries. There were a lot of challenges, but from that perspective, we were definite beneficiaries through your support on the technology side.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Sam. So, first of all, to your point, that became such a big challenge for most of the data collection companies and research companies if they did not have the survey software or the call it actionable insight software that was enabling them to work from anywhere. Because now, guess what? Nobody's coming to the office. No agent was ready to go to the office. It was such a tumultuous time. We all remember those, right? So we were very lucky to be able to support all our clients through that work from home environment, and that actually helped industry in general a lot to maintain to have the continuity in research and continuity in the surveys and continuity in the value they were delivering, including you guys to your customers, right? So if you were to ask me about the second part of your question, Sam, the environment today, interest rates are much higher than usual, and it is affecting the economy in multiple ways, the acquisitions, the cost of debt, and many firms are tightening their belt as a result. But the beauty of research space is many of these are mission critical projects and surveys that are going on forever, right? So, and the consumer is a lot more educated today, and as a result it has intensified the competition amongst the companies providing those services or products. And now customers need to be treated differently, and companies need to invest a lot of money in understanding their customer, maintaining the loyalty, and keep investing in that customer experience relationship. So as a result, I do see that research industry is holding strong, and maybe there are not that many, call it, new projects getting kick-started, but there is a lot of investment in the existing projects that is going on. There's a lot of continuity, and many firms are starting now their customer experience programs to understand what is happening. And to double click on that, so if your marketing and sales spend is going to be lower to attract new customers, how do you grow? How do you grow organically? If you look at the top software companies in the space, public companies, their net retention is north of 125%. How do you get that from an exceptional customer experience, right? And selling them and delivering them the quality of service and products and customer support that actually makes them a fan. And it actually makes the research and data collection services even more important. If you ask me, I'm biased, of course, but that is my view. Sam, what do you think?
I think you're 100% on the mark. I think there's a couple of things that I want to touch on. One is through some of these challenges, I think we need to acknowledge that through some of these challenges, be it COVID, be it these financial challenges, that's where the best innovation comes from. What we as an organization, Logit, when we've sat around the table and thought about how do we better how we approach doing things for clients, it's often come from that challenge, from a challenge of the client's budget is reducing. How do we do that? So how can we do the same for less, or how can we do something better, or how can we take the same budget and provide more insight and more value? So that stress test at times does elicit better outgoing products on a move forward basis. The other thing I want to touch on is, and it actually goes back to my political days, and this is so true for all clients, and I've said this often, especially when clients have talked about, well, do we, we're going to pause on this type of research, or we may need to reduce the cadence of this type of research. We need to tighten our belt, as you suggested, and spend a little less. I've tried to not from an approach of fear, but from an approach of education. I've tried to extol this virtue to clients. The moment that your competitor, through their research, knows more about you than you do, you've lost. And I've used that example in political circles a lot. But that translates and transforms into any industry you talk about. The moment that your competitor knows more about your space, your clients, your weaknesses, your strengths, you're already so significantly behind that it's going to be difficult to catch up. And that's the key component on the research side when we speak to clients. A lot of times clients expect to see that one gold nugget of information, that game changer. Whereas I often say the fact that we're just legitimizing or verifying your assumptions should make you sleep better at night, that you've now grounded your approach in some sound data. So I mean, again, we're obviously we're biased in the field that we work in, and the fact that we're research practitioners and technology providers. But it is so important to have that validity and strength, that those arrows in, I always use, like, those arrows that you can use to kind of target where you want to go and where your organization is going to go. And oftentimes the reduction of those budgets or that spend can be very short-term gain from a superficial perspective of spend, but is going to provide a lot more pain in the long term with where your organization goes and the blind spots that's been created that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Sam. And hopefully, all the organizations can put that lens on, because that is an extremely pragmatic lens to put on. So we discussed the challenges in this space through some of the questions we've been through, Sam. What excites you the most in the research space today?
So you know what? There is a lot of excitement. I mean, there is. I think just from the innovation side, so just from the technology and innovation side, and I know we go through this in cycles, social media monitoring, and there's always the new things that arise. But I just think the volume of what is being brought to the table from an innovation technology perspective is going to functionally add so much to how we can execute research. So the suite of AI and using AI for making studies easier, more insight, more granular feedback and data is to me is a big opportunity for us. However, I've got a huge caveat. And so when we say that there is a lot of benefit to the innovation coming, we do need to focus on the fact, because we talked about data quality, that anybody who's got that technology in front of them, they're bad actors, and the people that we're trying to remove from our ecosystem to enforce quality in, whether it's panel, whether it's that type of stuff, that they're going to have that same technology as well. So the same thing that I'm excited for also provides a degree of trepidation. We need to ensure that we're not complacent in saying we've brought all this new innovation into place, that by that extension, our research is better, our research is faster, our research is of more value. And my point is that goal line is always moving. So we always need to be progressing and always needing to be introducing things that will make sure that we stay that half step ahead of the issues and the challenges that are going to possibly affect our industry, not for good.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% with you, Sam. Now we are wrapping up the podcast, but I do want to ask you a very important question. If you have any advice for the next generation of researchers out there.
Well, I mean, it's in a lot of ways, I think people can, because of what's going on in our space, because of methodologies, because of innovation, because of the way research is being done. I think there are so many different ways you can enter the space now. I mean, just 20 years ago, even a decade ago, there were a lot of people that were coming in from the either the statistics side or the sociology side or the psychology side, the behavioral side, as practitioners. Now there's just an abundance of entry points to the space. So I think researchers nowadays, just the composition of our industry is so much more diverse in the type of people that are entering the space, which is fantastic, because the more diverse we are as a group of researchers, the more accurate we can assess the opinions of a diverse world that we're in the middle of, but also diversity of focus and diversity of of specialization and interest. So whether it's the technology side, the development side, um, not just the traditional practitioner side, I think there's so many more avenues to coming in. I think apart from that, I mean, I think it's my background is obviously atypical because I never worked for a research company ever. My first day working for a research company, I was working for my own research company, which is very unique. But I think getting as much experience and immersing yourself in other things in the research field. So if you're coming in from a largely behavioral side and immersing yourself in the technology space, I think is good. It's getting as broad of a foothold as possible. So I know there's a education now, and there's challenges and competition with people trying to get into any industry. But I think immerse yourself in as much as possible. Some of these postgraduate programs are so amazing. We've partnered for years with Humber College in providing a BIPOC scholarship for new entrants into the space. So people with a undergraduate or a post secondary degree that then want to go back and get a graduate program in research. I think those programs are fantastic. I would say just to expose yourself to as much as possible. But research is very exciting. The research space is probably more exciting now than it's ever been.
I think we can all agree on that. And on that point, Sam, I want to thank you a lot to take the time out of your busy schedule to talk to our audience today. It was such an amazing session. Thank you so much. We'll get you back, by the way. We will be hosting a panel of the first 5 research mavericks, and we would love to have you back on that.
Oh, that would be amazing. That'd be great. And thank you, Sumit, for I think I've been listening. They've been great episodes to date. I appreciate your inviting me on, and I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. And we will get back, Sam, soon again to talk to all of us. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.